The other aspect of consciousness is what we call the directional aspect. It's not enough just to have the skills to process information. You see, and to organize it. You got to organize it for a reason, to achieve a particular point, to satisfy some value, some wish, or some need. You see, I was looking at a discussion here the other evening with a very esteemed public intellectual who apparently had the capacity to reason and think very well. He's been educated in philosophy. And who has apparently a good deal of knowledge. They were supposed to be talking about alternatives to black problems and black leadership. And I didn't see one black problem discussed at all during that 2 hours. No issue confronting the black community was dealt with at all. Oh, but there was plenty of reasoning. There was plenty of knowledge being displayed there and so forth. But nothing in the sense of applying it to the end of liberating black folk. Applying it to the end of gaining freedom and enhancing the quality of life of black folk. You see, so even though you may have the knowledge and the content, even though you may know black history, even though you may know African history, that's not quite enough yet. Even though you may have the logical skills, it's not quite enough yet. You have to value African people. You have to value African liberation. You have to value African people being empowered and free and self-sufficient and doing for self. That has to be a value, so that when you think and when you process what you know, using logic and abstraction and so forth, it will be processed under the direction of trying to achieve those values. So that you are thinking for a reason, not just to be thinking, not just to be displaying knowledge, but you're engaging in the process of the information to achieve a particular point. So therefore, our desires and our needs and our values and our interests and aspirations and ideals and sense of purpose places a whole direction and purpose on our consciousness, and it organizes our consciousness so that it motivates us to know what instruments we are to use and what knowledge we should use to achieve what end. Okay, hang in with me here. Don't go to sleep on me yet. Because now we get into the point of what we mean when we talk about the falsification of consciousness. Because I want you to see exactly how our consciousness is falsified, in what ways. Now you can see those 3 levels: content, instrumentality, the capacity to process information, to process the content of our minds, and what? Values. You see, when you decide, men, that you're going to get rid of the white man as a power in our lives, and that's a very valuable goal for you. You know, it's a very valuable goal. What you do usually when you say, this is my goal, you start then to run an assessment of your capabilities, don't you? How capable are we of achieving this goal? What kind of knowledge must we have to accomplish this goal? What kind of information must we gather and make a part of our minds as a store of our knowledge in order to accomplish this goal? This is our goal. We want to be free of being ruled by white men. Okay? Now once you kind of get that together, what kind of mental skills must be what? Developed in order for us to use this knowledge and information to accomplish this end. Do we think abstractly enough? Because these people are very abstract thinkers. Do we think analytically enough? Because their hallmark is analytical thinking, isn't it? Do we think conceptually enough? Because we got to do what? We got to outsmart them. We got to outthink them. You see, And when we look at ourselves and say, well, our thinking skills are not what they should be and not up to that task, then we recognize we got to go to thinking school. We got to go where? And learn and develop. See, that's what a value will do for you. It will say, look, if you want to get this, you better sharpen up this skill, you better develop that skill. Do we know how to sit down with other men for 2 or 3 hours or 4 or 5 hours and really think and plan together? Do we know how to stay focused on the subject matter so that we can get something done? Can we subdue our egos and so forth long enough to solve the matter? That we can do it? So we can get where we want to go? Then we got to learn it if we don't, you see. And we got to keep that goal upmost in mind so that it can always help us to get back on task. You see? But you see, if you have no goals other than going to work, eating something, and drinking beer, getting sex, then no wonder you can't think. There's no need for thinking and developing thinking skills. If you're addicted to sex and drugs, what do you need to think for? Yeah. If you're satisfied working for a white man on a low-wage job, even a high-wage job, what do you need to think about how to create employment for yourself? How different, I tell people, when we see people go to school, we all go to school with one assumption, that the white man's got jobs out here for us, and all we need to do is qualify for it. Well, the white man doesn't have the jobs out here for us, and he hardly has the jobs for himself. How different would our education be if we went to school to learn to create jobs for ourselves? How different would our curriculum be if the purpose for our going to school was not to work for white folk, but to work for ourselves and to create jobs for ourselves and to create wealth for ourselves? How different the content of courses would be that we take and so forth. You say, it's not about lowering standards. It's not about changing standards and the way these people talk about it.
Teach.
You say, it's about building up the appropriate standard. It's not about unequal education. It's about what? Appropriate education. It's about looking at the goals of your nation and looking at the goals of your community and deciding what kind of education you need in order to achieve those goals. But the kind of education we're getting today has the goal of working for white people and forever being the white man's servant and slave in some form or another. And therefore we get a servant's education and a slave's education. And when he has no need for further servants or slaves, he doesn't educate us at all. And that's what's going on at this point. Because now he's hiring across the world. Now he imports the workers that he needs. And consequently, he's disinvesting the education of black people in America. And consequently, if you do not engage in the education of yourself and determine what your education is, if we are not engaging our children to make their own job and to make their own world, we are not going to be around much longer as a people. This is what this is about. So then how does this man falsify the consciousness of our people? Falsify it in 3 ways, then. You can falsify it by giving people false contents, false history, false knowledge, irrelevant knowledge. You say